Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Deep Dive Podcast. Hope you are doing well and taking good care of yourself. We go beyond the headlines and uncover the truth behind real stories, real crimes, and real consequences. Let's move towards today's topic. Imagine, if you will, dumping a jigsaw puzzle out onto a table. You're excited to start flipping the pieces over, but then you realize something is really wrong.
Yeah.
You have a corner piece that looks like it's from a ghost story. You have an edge piece that looks like it belongs in a cartel thriller.
And then there's this other piece over here that is just a tragic case of untreated mental illness.
Exactly. And the scary part, they're all supposed to fit together to make the same picture.
That is probably the best analogy I've ever heard for the case we are covering today. I mean, usually in these deep dives, we can find a thread, right? A single narrative line that, pulls everything together.
Yeah.
But with the Jameson family, every time you think you've found that thread, it just snaps.
We are talking about the disappearance of the Jameson family, Bobby, Sherilyn, and their 6-year-old daughter, Madison. This is widely, and I mean widely, considered one of the most baffling mysteries of the modern era. And I don't say that lightly.
Oh, not at all.
We have a family that vanishes into thin air, a truck abandoned with $32,000 in cash, accusations of, quote, spiritual warfare, and then skeletal remains found 4 years too late.
It's a case that just haunts investigators because the evidence is so loud, It's screaming at you, but it's screaming contradictory things.
Right.
So our mission today is to take this massive stack of sources. We've got the police reports, the timelines, the forensic notes, and really try to sift through the noise. We're going to look past all those sensational headlines about witchcraft and cults and see if we can find the human tragedy that's buried underneath it all.
We have to. We need to understand how a family of 3 and their dog drove into the Oklahoma mountains and just ceased to exist.
Yeah.
So let's start by meeting the people at the center of this. Who were the Jamesons before all this? Before the mystery began? Because if you look at their photos, they look like a totally normal family.
On the surface, absolutely. But if you really dig into the context that we get for the background reports, you see a family that was in free fall. In 2009, they were living in Eufaula, Oklahoma.
Okay.
It's a lakeside town, generally pretty quiet. But inside the Jameson home, things were, well, volatile.
Yeah.
You have Bobby, who was 44, and Sherilyn, who was 40, and both of them were unemployed, living on disability benefits.
And we're not just talking about being in between jobs, right? There were some significant medical issues going on here.
Oh, absolutely. Bobby had been in a really severe car accident a few years earlier, and the sources all emphasized that he suffered from chronic, just debilitating back pain. He was on prescription medication, and he often struggled just to move around comfortably.
That's a crucial detail.
It's a huge physical detail we need to pin to the board for later.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And what about Sherilyn?
Sherilyn was battling her own demons. She had a diagnosis of severe bipolar disorder and suffered from just deep depression. And the sources seem to indicate that this was all made so much worse by a recent tragedy. Her sister had died in a freak accident.
I read about this. It was bee sting, right?
A severe reaction to a bee sting.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah.
Just unbelievably tragic.
It completely unmoored her. And when you combine that kind of grief with, unmedicated or maybe inconsistently medicated mental health struggles, and then you add in chronic pain and financial stress,
Yeah.
you basically have a pressure cooker. They were a family that was desperate for an escape valve.
And they thought they'd found that escape in the mountains, which brings us to October 8th, 2009, the day they vanished.
The day everything changes.
They pack up their white GMC pickup truck, they grab their daughter Madison, and they take their dog Maisie. So where are they going?
They were heading to the Sambois Mountains near Red Oak, Oklahoma. They were looking at a 40-acre plot of land. Now, I really want to paint a picture of this terrain for you because it's so vital to this story.
Okay.
Sambois actually means without wood in French, but that's a total misnomer. These mountains are dense, they're rocky, they're rugged. Historically, this was outlaw country.
Like Jesse James kind of stuff.
Exactly. Places where guys like Jesse James would hide out because it was so incredibly hard for law enforcement to navigate.
So not exactly a suburban cul-de-sac they were looking at.
Far from it. It's isolated. And that's what they wanted. They had this plan to live completely off the grid. They actually owned a large storage container, like a shipping container, that they planned to just drop on the land and convert into a home.
Wow. Okay, so we know they made it to the mountains. They got there.
We do. We have a confirmed sighting. On that day, October 8th, they stopped and they spoke to a local man who lived near the property they were going to view.
And this interaction is just so important because it's the last time anyone sees them alive.
Right.
How did they seem? I mean, were they panicked? Were they acting like they were fleeing something?
See, that's the really strange part. According to the witness, they seemed fine.
Fine.
Yeah, in good spirits. They chatted about the land, they didn't seem erratic, and they certainly didn't look like a family that was on the brink of death. They drove off to check out the plot, and silence.
Absolute silence. For over a week, no one hears from them. And it's not until October 17th, what is that, 8 or 9 days later, that some hunters just stumble across their truck.
And this is where the story shifts from, a missing family case to a full-blown locked room mystery.
The discovery of the truck is the first major anomaly that it doesn't fit the pattern of a normal disappearance at all. The hunters find this white GMC pickup just abandoned.
It's parked near a well site, maybe a quarter mile from that real estate plot. It's not crashed, it's not in a ditch, it's just parked.
But the condition of the truck is what gives me chills. Walk us through that scene.
Okay, so picture this. You walk up to the truck, the doors are locked up tight.
Okay.
But then you look through the window and you see the keys are still in the ignition.
Wait, let's unpack that. Who locks their doors but leaves the keys in the ignition? I mean, you'd need a second set of keys, or you'd have to, manually lock the door and slam it shut while the keys are still inside?
Exactly. It suggests a moment of, interruption or confusion or maybe even panic where all logic just went out the window. But then inside the cab, it gets heartbreaking. Their dog, Maisie, is inside.
And Maisie is alive.
Barely. And this is really gruesome detail, but it's forensically vital. Maisie had been trapped in that truck for 8 or 9 days. She was starving, dehydrated. The sources state that she actually survived by eating her own feces.
Oh, that's just devastating. But okay, forensically, what does that tell us? What does that mean?
It tells us that once that door was shut, on October 8th, it was never opened again.
Right.
The family didn't come back to feed the dog. No one else opened that door. The truck basically became a sealed time capsule from the exact moment they left it.
And what a time capsule it was. I mean, usually if you have to abandon your car, you take your essentials. You grab your phone, your wallet.
Not here. Inside that locked truck, investigators found everything. Their IDs, their wallets, their cell phones, their coats.
Their coats. It's October in the mountains. It gets cold at night.
It does. Leaving your coat behind implies you didn't plan to be outside for very long. They also left a GPS unit.
And then there's the elephant in the room, or rather, the bank bag under the seat.
The money.
$32,000 in cash.
Yes. Tucked right under the driver's seat was a bank bag containing $32,000.
This just completely breaks the robbery theory for me right from the start. If bad guys stop you, or carjack you, or kidnap you, they take the money.
Precisely. 32 grand isn't like a $20 bill you might miss in the ashtray. It's a stack.
Yeah.
It has bulk. Even if the perpetrators didn't know it was there initially, if you're stealing a vehicle or abducting a family, you search the car.
Of course.
The fact that the money was left behind suggests that immediate financial theft just wasn't the motive. Or that whoever did this was interrupted so quickly they couldn't even search the cab.
There was one more thing in that truck that adds this really heavy psychological layer to everything. The hate letter.
Yes. In Sherilyn's purse, investigators found an 11-page letter. It was written by her, addressed to Bobby, and it was intense.
Vitriolic, I think, is the word I saw used.
Oh, absolutely. It listed grievances, insults, accusations. It called him a hermit. It attacked his parenting. It was brutal.
11 pages. That's not a note. That's a manifesto.
It really is. And it demonstrates a condition called hypergraphia, which can be a symptom of mania in bipolar disorder, this intense, overwhelming compulsion to write. It paints a picture of a marriage that was, arguably crumbling from the inside out.
So I can see why the police, looking at this scene, the money, the letter, the locked truck, they must have thought, domestic dispute.
That's the first place you go. Maybe they got into a huge fight, they stormed off into the woods, and they got lost.
But you don't leave the dog. And you definitely don't leave a small fortune in cash.
And you don't leave your coats. The whole walk-away theory just has massive, massive holes in it. But to understand why they might have walked away, or maybe been lured away, we have to go back to their mindset. We have to talk about their descent into what they called spiritual warfare.
This is where the story gets really dark and, frankly, just strange. And we need to be careful here not to stigmatize mental illness, but the sources are very, very clear about what the family believed was happening to them.
They are. The background investigation revealed that the entire family had sort of descended into this shared paranoia. They believed their house in Eufaula was haunted.
Haunted?
Yeah. Sherilyn told friends she saw spirits. She even gave them names, Michael and Emily.
And it wasn't just the adults. Right, this is the part that really gets to me. Their 6-year-old daughter, Madison, she was involved in this.
That's the true tragedy of it. Madison reportedly started talking to the spirit she called Emily. And when a child is brought into a delusion like that, it reinforces it for the adults. It creates this feedback loop where the parents think, see, the child sees it too, so it must be real.
And Bobby was fully on board with all of this. He wasn't skeptical at all.
Completely on board. He actually went to their pastor and asked a question that I don't think many pastors ever hear. He asked if there were special bullets.
Special bullets?
Holy bullets that could be acquired to shoot the spirits.
He wanted to shoot ghosts with a gun.
He did. It shows this really desperate attempt to physicalize a psychological problem. He wanted a weapon he could hold in his hands. And at the same time, sources tell us Bobby was reading the Satanic Bible.
Okay, that seems contradictory. You're asking the pastor for holy bullets, but you're also reading the Satanic Bible.
It does seem that way, but in his mind, it was research. He told friends he was looking for natural ways or counterspells within that text to fight the spirits. He was just scrambling for any tool he could find to defend his family.
They even started marking their territory physically. That storage container, the one they were going to put on the mountain, it had graffiti on it, didn't it?
Yes. Ominous messages spray painted on the side. One of them read, "Witches don't like their black cat killed."
Witches don't like their black cat killed. What does that even mean?
Well, Sherilyn believed their neighbors had poisoned their cats. So in her mind, the neighbors were witches and the family was under siege. This is textbook paranoia. They felt attacked from all sides. Spiritual entities inside the house and witches living next door.
So, clinically speaking, what are we looking at here? Is this a case of folie à deux?
That is the leading psychological theory, folie à deux, or the madness of two. It's a shared psychotic disorder where a delusion is transmitted from one individual to another. And given their isolation, remember, they pulled Madison out of school and were planning to sue the district, and their intense family bond, it is highly probable they were just feeding off each other's fears.
Now, I have to ask the obvious question. We're talking rural Oklahoma, paranoia, rapid weight loss. Are we talking about meth?
It's the elephant in the room for any investigator in that region, of course.
Yeah.
Methamphetamine abuse causes all of those things, the weight loss, paranoia, the erratic behavior. It mimics schizophrenia.
Yeah.
However, and this is a massive however, no illegal drugs were found. No. Anywhere. No meth in the house, no meth in the truck, no pipes, no residue, just Bobby's prescription pills for his back.
So we have all the symptoms of drug-induced psychosis, but without the drugs.
Exactly. Which points us right back to severe, untreated mental illness that was just exacerbated by all their stress.
And we can actually see this behavior in action. We don't have to guess. There is security footage from the day they left.
The famous CCTV footage is the last video evidence we have of the family. It captures Bobby and Sherilyn packing the truck on the morning of October 8th. And packing is, well, it's disturbing to watch.
The police described it as trance-like.
They did. The footage shows them making over 20 trips back and forth between the house and the truck. But they aren't moving with any purpose. They walk slowly. They stop and just stare into the distance. Sometimes they'll carry an item to the truck, turn right around, and carry the same item back into the house.
And they aren't speaking to each other at all.
Not a single word. It's silent. Robotic almost. Now, I do want to add a nuance here. Some video analysts have suggested that the security camera had a really low frame rate, which can make movement look jerkier or more zombie-like than it really was. We had to account for those technical artifacts.
Sure, okay, the video might be choppy, but the behavior, the packing and then unpacking the same box, that's not a frame rate issue, that's cognitive, that's in their heads.
Exactly. It suggests confusion or indecision or maybe that they were stalling for some reason. But amidst all this weird back and forth, there are two items that are absolutely crucial because they just vanish. We see them in the video, but they are never found again.
The brown briefcase.
The brown briefcase. In the video, we can clearly see them put a brown briefcase into the truck.
And there was a gun too.
A .22 caliber pistol. Sherilyn was known to carry it for protection. They kept it in the glove box.
Okay, so let's reset the board here. They pack a briefcase and a gun. They drive to the mountains. The truck is found locked with $32,000 inside it, but the briefcase and the gun are gone.
That is the detail that keeps me up at night regarding this case. Because if this is a mental health break or a suicide pact or just a simple case of them getting lost in the woods, the briefcase and the gun should be with the truck or with the bodies. The fact that they are missing strongly implies a third party was involved. Someone took them.
So what was in the briefcase?
Well, speculation runs wild. Was it more money? Was it important documents? Some theories suggest that the 32 grand under the seat was like chump change, and the real value was in that case.
If that's true, it changes everything. It means they weren't just running from spirits. Maybe they were running to a transaction.
Exactly.
And that brings us to the external threats. Because Bobby didn't just have ghosts to worry about, he had his own father.
Dean Jameson. This is a very tangled web. Bobby had actually filed a protective order against his father, Dean.
And the accusations in that filing were, they were intense.
Extremely intense.
Yeah.
Bobby claimed Dean was a very dangerous man. He alleged that Dean had ties to prostitutes, to gangs, to meth. He even claimed that Dean had threatened to kill the entire family.
That sounds like a clear suspect. A family feud, threats of murder, dangerous connections. You've got motive right there.
It does, on paper. And there was bad blood over money, too. Dean had sued Bobby over profits from a gas station they'd been involved with. Bobby had turned around and sued Dean over some property. It was ugly. But there is a massive twist in the timeline that really complicates this theory.
Dean was dying.
Dean died just 2 months after the Jameson family disappeared. By the time they vanished, Dean was reportedly frail, sick, and in very, very poor health.
So physically, he couldn't have been hiking up a mountain to hunt them down himself.
Highly, highly unlikely.
Yeah.
Now, could he have hired someone? A hitman. That's the theory that keeps us alive. But Dean's brother, Bobby's uncle, is on record stating he didn't believe Dean was capable of orchestrating something like that in his condition. He said he was just too far gone.
It feels like another dead end. Just like the money source, we keep coming back to that $32,000. Do we even know where it came from?
There's a debate there. The most boring and probably the most likely answer is that it was settlement money.
From the car accident.
From Bobby's car accident, right? He had received a settlement of roughly $64,000 not long before this. $32,000 is almost exactly half of that.
But if it's legal settlement money, why are you carrying it in cash in a bank bag to go look at raw land? You don't buy real estate with a bag of cash in the woods, not usually.
Unless you're not actually buying real estate.
Exactly. This is where that drug theory just keeps creeping back in. Carrying that much cash to a remote location signals a transaction of some kind. But again, no drugs were found, no history of drug trafficking, just a family with a lot of cash and a lot of problems.
And that's where the trail went cold. For 4 years, the truck sat in an evidence locker, the money was counted and stored, the dog was adopted by relatives, and the family was just gone. Until November 2013.
4 years of total silence. And then some deer hunters in the same mountains about, 2.7 to 3 miles away from where the truck was found, they make a grim discovery.
3 miles.
Yeah.
And that's a long way in that kind of dense forest.
It is. And what they found was just heartbreaking. 3 skulls, one large, one medium, one small, found face down side by side.
Side by side is the detail that just stops you in your tracks. They weren't scattered as if they'd run in panic in different directions. They were lined up. There were scattered bones and clothing remnants nearby, but the arrangement of the skulls suggests they were together at the moment of death.
And after 4 years out in the woods, the forensic evidence must have been, incredibly limited.
Limited is an understatement. The decomposition was total. The medical examiner couldn't determine a cause of death. There was no soft tissue left to test for poisons or drugs or anything like that.
But there was something on Bobby's skull.
Yes, a small hole in the back of Bobby's skull.
A bullet hole.
That is the leading theory for homicide detectives on the case.
Yeah.
It looks consistent with the bullet hole, possibly from a small caliber weapon like a .22.
Like the .22 that was missing from the truck.
Precisely. However, we have to be scientifically rigorous here. After 4 years of exposure to the elements and animals, it's impossible to say with 100% certainty that it wasn't environmental damage or, animal predation. But a clean hole in the back of the head? It strongly suggests an execution-style murder.
And then there's the walk problem. You mentioned the distance, 3 miles.
This is critical. Remember, Bobby was on disability. He had severe chronic back pain. Sources indicate he struggled just to move around his own house comfortably. The idea that he could hike 3 miles through rugged, rocky, off-trail terrain, it just defies everything we know about his physical condition.
So if he couldn't have walked there?
He was driven there, or forced there at gunpoint. It implies they didn't just wander off from the truck and get lost. They were transported to a second location.
Which brings us to the theories. We have all these puzzle pieces laid out. Let's try to fit some of them together. Let's start with Theory A, murder-suicide. Sherilyn was depressed. She wrote that hate letter. Maybe she just snapped.
It fits the psychological profile, sure. You have the letter, the hate, all the stress. But the physical evidence just fights you on it. If Sherilyn shot Bobby and Madison and then herself, where is the gun?
Animals don't steal guns.
Exactly. A gun doesn't rot. If it was a murder-suicide, the weapon would be right there next to the bodies. And it wasn't. Plus, why walk 3 miles to do it? Why leave the dog alive? People who commit murder-suicide, they often take the family pet with them. Leaving Maisie suggests they fully expected to return to that truck.
Okay, so murder-suicide is weak. Let's go to Theory B, drug deal gone wrong.
This one accounts for the cash. It accounts for the remote meeting spot. It accounts for the possible execution-style death.
But why in the world would you bring your 6-year-old daughter to a drug deal?
That's the sticking point, isn't it? Most parents, even those making incredibly bad choices, they try to shield their kids from that. And again, why leave the $32,000 behind? If it was a robbery or a drug ripoff, the bad guys usually take the money.
Unless the $32,000 wasn't the point. Unless the real money or the real contraband was in that brown briefcase.
That is the nuance that makes this theory so plausible. If that briefcase held something worth far more than 32 grand like highly pure narcotics or maybe even stolen bonds or something, the killers might have just grabbed the case and run, not bothering to search the truck.
Oh.
Or maybe they just didn't know the cash was tucked under the seat.
That makes a terrifying amount of sense. Now, there is a darker, even stranger theory. Theory C, the cult or the hit list.
This comes from a very specific and kind of chilling source detail. An anonymous caller contacted a friend of Sherilyn's after they disappeared. This caller claimed to have been part of a white supremacist group and said she saw the Jameson name on a hit list.
A hit list? Why would they be on a hit list?
Well, the caller noted that Sherilyn was part Native American, and there have long been rumors of extremist groups or, cults operating in the privacy of the Samboy Mountains.
Is there any hard evidence for this? Anything to back that up?
Very, very little. It's basically hearsay. But Sherilyn's own mother has expressed her belief in this theory. It fits a certain narrative of outsiders wandering into territory where they weren't wanted. But without any physical evidence linking a specific group, it has to remain just a theory.
And finally, that brings us to Theory D, the third party or opportunistic killing.
This is where a lot of experts and investigators land. Someone just saw them. Maybe someone saw the cash when they stopped for gas. Maybe someone just saw them on the mountain and saw an opportunity. They were forced into the woods.
It explains a locked truck. Maybe it was panic. They see someone coming, they hit the lock button, but they're forced away from the truck before they can get back in.
It explains the missing gun. The killer took it and used it. It explains the missing briefcase. The killer took it because it looked valuable. And it explains the distance. They were marched or driven to a secondary, more secluded location.
It's the most terrifying theory because it's so random. Just wrong place, wrong time.
And yet, it feels the most consistent with the complete lack of evidence at the truck itself.
Before we wrap this up, there is one final haunting image we need to talk about. The last photo on Bobby's phone.
Yes, the picture of Madison.
It was taken that day, the day they disappeared. She's standing on the mountain, her arms are crossed, and she's looking away from the camera.
It's such a haunting image. Some people look at it and they see a scared child. They say she looks defensive, like she's deeply uncomfortable. Is she looking at the killer? Is she looking at one of those spirits?
Or is she just a 6-year-old kid who is tired of being dragged around the woods by her parents and is having a pouty moment?
And that is the tragedy of hindsight, isn't it? We project our knowledge of her death onto that photo. It could be a simple tantrum. It could be pure fear. We will never, ever know. But it remains the last image of a little girl who deserved a future she never got.
So after all of this, where does that leave us?
It leaves us with a profound tragedy. A family gripped by internal demons, mental illness, paranoia, marital strife, who walked straight into a very real nightmare. Whether it was their own delusions that ultimately led them astray, or a very human predator who took advantage of their obvious vulnerability, the result is the same.
3 skeletons in the woods.
In a brown briefcase that has never been found.
That's the thing that sticks with me. I keep coming back to it. If the $32,000 wasn't the motive, what in the world was in that brown briefcase that was worth killing a family of 3 for?
That is the question, isn't it? The cash was left. The car was left. The briefcase was taken. whatever was inside that case holds the answer to who killed the Jameson family.
Something to think about the next time you see a locked car on the side of a remote road. You just never, ever know the story behind it.
Indeed.
That's it for this deep dive into the Jameson family mystery. Stay curious, stay safe, and keep asking questions.
Until next time.